Are you also guilty of waiting for the perfect moment to start making a change on your nutrition or your strength training, or maybe it's other flexibility training, or whatever it is, waiting for the perfect week, the perfect month, maybe even the perfect year? Now, I'm definitely guilty of this, and a lot of the clients that I work with also find themselves guilty of this, where they want to make a change, but they keep identifying blocks or barriers or reasons that make it not the ideal moment to start. So it gets put on hold and put on hold and put on hold and put on hold. And then 6, 12, 18 months later, nothing's changed because there hasn't been any progress and any change in behavior or whatever it is, the goal. And so I've been thinking about this a lot this last week or two, actually probably a little bit longer than a week, maybe a month, because for me, it's the strength training. That's probably the area where I identify there is a big need to change and to improve. And I've identified a pain point. So there's always like a pain point for us that makes us sort of stop this goal from, like, it helps us to push from this goal being something that we want to do and we wish about doing, that actually makes us take action and do something about it. And it could be pain. So for myself, it's pain in my back because I haven't been doing enough strength, and I can tell that there's a lot of weak, imbalanced muscles going on. I'm doing all of the cycling training, doing a little bit of stretching sporadically, but then there's just these weak muscles because I haven't been doing any strength training consistently. I've had periods of time where I've done it for a week or 2 or maybe a month, but it's never stuck. And as a result, I sort of put it off because, for example, a couple of weeks ago, I was planning to do a lap of the island in Mallorca, and I identified I had some space in my week where I could go and start strength training. But because I knew that I was going to be sore for probably 2 or 3 days after I did that strength training, then that put me off and it stopped me and held me back from actually starting. And then the next week, there was something else that came up. I wanted to do this ride. I wanted to do this event or this thing. And all of these things that kept stopping me from actually starting on doing any sort of strength training. And as a result, that pain sort of was lingering. And it just gets to the point eventually that we've reached breaking point and we need to do something. But rather than obviously just putting a Band-Aid on it and getting a sports massage, which would fix the problem temporarily, but it's not really addressing the cause. So the cause is the root of the problem for me is that I really need to just go and do some strength training and be consistent about it. And so I think it's a very common scenario that relates to what I see in practice with nutrition with people. And November is an interesting time because typically people wait till January to start with their New Year's resolutions, going to change, new year, new me and everything. And over the last couple of years, I've noticed more people approaching me wanting to start making changes now in November because they realize like, oh, okay, well, I've got 8 weeks left until the new year starts. And there's going to be a lot of chaos happening in those months, Christmas holidays, Christmas parties, and periods of time where people start stressing about food and worrying about food, worrying about gaining weight over that Christmas period. And so they want support and help to start making changes amongst the chaos, with the chaos. So they get to January and they've been able to either maintain their weight over the Christmas period, or some of them are even able to make some changes and lose weight if that was one of their goals. And so I find November a really interesting time when it comes to nutrition with my clients because, yeah, there's some people who are like, no, I'm going to wait until January to start. And there's other people who are actually, no, I want to start making changes now. I'm ready and I'm prepared to make changes now. So I think what I wanted to talk today about was working through some of the things and the barriers that can be psychologically holding us back from changing. So the longer I worked as a sports dietitian, the more I find it's not just about the food, because so many of us, we know we should be eating more vegetables. We know we should be doing this or that or whatever. We know we should be doing strength training or doing active cardio, whatever it is. But for whatever reason, it gets put down the priority list and other things just we're reacting a lot more rather than being proactive. And so I think the first thing we always want to identify is, what is the goal? Like, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to achieve? So for me, the strength training, for me, it's not about aesthetics. Actually, the thing for me with strength training is more, partially it's pain, pain avoidance, but I'm also thinking like 20, 30 40 years down the track. I'm 39, and I would still love to be running around like crazy, riding my bike like crazy, doing all these active things into my 80s. However long that I am lucky to be living on this world, I want to be living an active life, and I want to be outside and be independent for as long as possible. And I know that in order to do that, I need to start making the changes in my habits, in my patterns, and my behaviors right now in my 30s, so that in my 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond, they're really ingrained in my lifestyle and it's easy. So I'm not having to just rely on willpower or discipline or like beating myself up to actually go and do the thing. It's like, this is what I do. This makes me feel good and helps me live a great life. And so for me, the reason why I want to do strength training is so I'm strong and independent in 30, 40 years time. It's not anything to do about aesthetics. And why it's important to me, like kind of like what I was saying, that's what we also want to identify. Like, why is this goal important to us? If you want to lose weight, why is that important to you? What are you making that mean? Is it just about aesthetics? Or is it truly about performance? Because a lot of times with nutrition and weight loss, I'll have clients be like, I need to lose weight to perform better, or I need to lose weight in order to get over these climbs. And whereas I'm like, well, you actually could stay the exact same weight as you are, but improve your FTP. You could improve your ability to ride at a certain speed or distance or duration at the exact same weight by the way that you fuel. You may not lose weight, but you may actually improve your performance. It doesn't always have to mean one equals the other. And what are you making it mean? And I think a lot of times with weight loss, when people are saying, I want to lose weight, what they really mean is, I want to be smaller, I want to be skinnier, I want to be little, I want to be less. And it's an aesthetic reason. They may not necessarily say that out loud, but I find when I've dug a little bit deeper in conversations with clients, that certainly plays a role of it. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing in any way, shape, or form. Like, you want to feel good in your body, you want to feel strong, you want to feel healthy, but we want to have goals and outcomes beyond purely just the weight as a number, because there'll be times that the weight doesn't move, there's times it goes up, it goes down, and we need to learn not to be reactive to a specific number when there's so many other things that our nutrition can be benefiting in our health and our performance and our lifestyles. So going over why it's important to you, we then want to think about what has and hasn't worked for you in the past. And so if I think about my trajectory over the past 10 years with strength training, like, I trained as a personal trainer. So I actually have the qualifications for as a personal trainer. So I know what to do, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to do it. Just because I know what to do doesn't mean I'm going to do it. And I've found that there's periods of time that I really benefit from having support from a personal trainer to coach me and literally just be there to hold my hand and make me do stuff. And there's times that I'm much more autonomous and independent, and I just want you to tell me what to do and I can off and go and do it. So there's times and places that will work when I've got support, and there's times that it will work when I can just do it on my own. And so I think my first introduction with that was when I was doing my Ironman 10 years ago. I had a trainer once a week and doing strength training. Again, similar reason, I was trying to avoid getting injured while I was training 20 plus hours a week with a full-time job. And then I probably stopped. I think this will happen. I finished the Ironman training, like discovered that I love cycling, and just stopped doing the strength stuff because I wanted to do more cycling. I didn't want to be doing strength training. I just wanted to be outside on the bike all the time. And so then I probably had a few years where I didn't really do anything. And I think about another moment of time when I really started getting back in the swing of strength training was the year that I went back to Australia after COVID, and it was raining all the time. So I didn't really get to ride very much. And I started going to the gym just purely because I need to do something active. And I was going once or twice a week, and I was babysitting, puppy sitting, dog sitting for this dog. And the gym I went to had I don't know, you could book the dog in for, the dog had the little bed at the gym at the reception. And so, but you had to book it as an appointment. So I would book the dog in at an appointment at the gym, which meant that I would go to my gym appointment, or at least go to the gym and do strength training. And I think it took me like 3 months of going once or twice a week for probably 3 months before I started really building up the enjoyment factor. So for me, remembering that, I need to bring that memory and that fact to the present and to the future, knowing that, okay, if I start strength training today, I might not really enjoy it properly until about 2 or 3 months down the track. And I may not be really seeing or feeling all the benefits for a couple of weeks, couple of months down the track. Like one session isn't going to do anything. Same thing with nutrition. I see a lot of people like they want to have one session, tell me to fix everything, and then expect that to change everything. I'm like, well, we can make some of these changes, but a lot of them are going to need a lot more time and effort to change your behaviors, your practices, and your beliefs around food. So thinking about what's worked, also what hasn't worked, because I can also think of times when I have had a personal trainer and I was going once a week with this personal trainer, and then it got to the point where like maybe after 2 or 3 weeks where I'm like, well, I'm just paying you to watch me and I can do this on my own. Just tell me what, like I actually better off you telling me what to do, and then I go and do it, because I don't need you in this environment watching me do what I already need to do. And so that worked for a period of time. But then as a result, because I wasn't linked to a gym and I didn't have all the equipment at my house, then I only stuck with it for a couple of weeks. I hadn't been doing it for long enough to make it really ingrained into my lifestyle and pattern. And so then it got put on hold for another 6, 12 months. And so I guess that brings me back to today and where I am now. We really need to think about what are the barriers. So I started thinking, what are we on now? October or November? In August, I was thinking, okay, I need to start going back to the gym. I'll start doing some strength training, how and where and what. And I started exploring a few different kinds of gyms and went to a couple of little trial sessions. And I remember thinking, like, I'm going to be away for this month in August while I'm in Italy for work. Then it's not really worth starting now, because I'm going to do 2 or 3 weeks and then I'm going to be away for a month and it's going to be stop, start, stop, start. I identified that thought and chose to ignore it, and actually went to a couple of sessions before in a group context where it was more like a group gym where there's circuits and lots of people doing different exercises. I've tried the High Rocks. I know everyone's raving about High Rocks at the moment, but for me, really doesn't do anything for me. I find that I don't get enough of the strength training that I need, and I don't need the endurance, the cardio work, making you run up and down and do burpees and stuff. I'm not interested in that. I just want the strength stuff. And so I found a group session that was more like strength training in a group context was probably a good stepping stone to at least get me at the gym, because at its appointment, it's a specific time. I can put it in the calendar and then book it in and then go, versus if I'm left to my own devices and just go randomly if and when and how I think about going at the time. So we really need to think about what barriers are in the way for us to make changes. So for example, with nutrition, one of the barriers that I'll see is people like, oh, I want to lose weight. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, what's going on in your world right now? Do you really have the time, the capacity, the ability to focus on this properly to achieve the results and the goals that you're trying to achieve? And sometimes people's goals are not realistic, and we might be able to get part of the way there and start making progress on that goal. But they might be like, I want to lose 20 kilos in a month. It's like, well, it may be possible, but it's going to come at a lot of sacrifice. And if you're traveling all the time with work, you've got a lot of stress with your family. Like, there's all these things that are just part of everyday life. You might be going to lots of parties. You might be eating out all the time. We need to learn to work around what is actually realistic in your life. Like, I talk a lot about being idealistic versus realistic. We need to be realistic with the nutrition. And that's why it's not like an overnight thing, like quick fix sort of scenario. So we need to identify the barriers and think about how are we going to work through those barriers. So if this happens, then what are we going to do instead? And I think also thinking about what's the bare minimum, smallest action step that you can take. I think myself included, like so many of us are really, I guess, guilty of thinking like, if I can't do the whole thing, if I can't do like a full hour gym session, if I can't lose 5 kilos in the next month, then it's not even worth trying. It's not even worth getting started, and not thinking about the long-term goal, the long-term aim, and the process, because a lot of this is about the process. And for each person, that process, that journey may take longer. It might be easier. It might be harder, whatever it is, but we need to start identifying where are the barriers and how we're going to overcome them, because that is what's going to determine what is the optimal plan for you to achieve your goal. So with me for the gym, like I've been saying, like I've been thinking about this for months and months and months, and in the last month in particular, it started becoming a lot more front of mind because I started having all this back pain out of nowhere, probably because I'm 39. And so I'm like, okay, I need to address this, because obviously when I've had strength training regularly in the past, and there was pain present, the pain was eliminated when I started getting into that rhythm and routine of exercise. So I know that if I'm stronger, I'm less likely to have pain. So I need to get started, but I need to get over this thought of like, I've got to wait for the perfect moment, the perfect day to sort of start. And so yesterday I was thinking about this when I'd gone to the beach for a lunch break, and I was thinking about it. And someone had recently recommended a particular gym that's actually quite close to my house. And last week, I actually visited another gym because I've been like, okay, I need to take some action steps. I need to get somewhere closer. I need to find these different gyms. Like some of them are too close or too far away, or others, they're all CrossFit gyms or they're high rocks, and I just don't care enough I want more strength sort of training stuff. And so I went to visit one gym, and it wasn't really what I was looking for because it was all like one-on-one every week or twice a week. I was like, that's not really what I need. Or I don't have there's not the structure that I needed to make the most out of that situation right now, perhaps in the future. Whereas with this other gym, I was on a hike on the weekend, and some of the guys were talking about this gym that they've recently joined. I'm like, oh, it's really close to my house. It's like 10 minutes from where I live. I can walk there. I can go the Vespa on it, or I could drive. Probably wouldn't drive. Be more likely to walk and get a Vespa. But I can get there in 10 minutes. And 10 minutes walking for me is really easy. It's not a barrier. If it was 30-minute walk, that would become a bit of a barrier. So if I know that barrier, if it's too far, I'd have to make a lot of effort to get there. Probably not going to go. The other thing I really liked about this gym was that it had a ton of classes. So lots of classes, whether it was strength training, it had the high rocks, the cross training, it has abdominal stuff, it's got body balance, yoga, Pilates. It's got a whole mixture of strength and flexibility sort of sessions all across the day, across the week at different times. And with me, my work schedule is crazy. I can be working anywhere from 7 in the morning till 8, 9 p.m. at night. And so I have a lot of fluidity in my day, which I like, that works really well with me, my personality. So I might be doing really, really early mornings, and I might be doing late nights, and then I have the middle of the day when it's sunny, free to do my other things. So my work hours can be a little bit crazy, and I don't tend to want to do strength training or other sort of training in the morning, because that's my prime hours when I tend to see clients and when I'm working with people one-on-one. So knowing that there's an ability to get classes at all different times of the day, that's great to get me started. And so that was my plan. That is my plan getting started. I was like, okay, I'm going to start with maybe 2 or 3 weeks of just going to at least one per week as a starting point. Like, rather than being like, I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week and then next week I don't go at all. I'm like, okay, if I go once this week, that's a win. If I go twice next week, that's a win. And trying to get to the point where I have a bare minimum of twice a week where I've done some sort of strength training, and then building it up. And at the moment, it's not about the specifics of like, I'm working on upper body, I'm working on a lower body. Right now, it's just getting into the rhythm and routine, getting over the barrier of just getting in the door, getting started. Because I know that once I've been going a couple of weeks, then I'm going to start being like, oh, I really like this and I want to go more. And then I want to be more strategic and more specific. And then I might be doing an upper body day and then a lower body day. But it's going to build and build and build and build. And the same thing happens, I find, with my clients with nutrition. I work with people for 3 months because I find that it's going to take time to test and tweak and adjust. And I find it's usually around the 6-week mark that people have gotten most of the changes that they need to make. But then it's about troubleshooting the life stuff that happens, because most people can stick to a plan and stick to a structure for a couple of weeks. But then after it's been like 6 weeks or so, that's when motivation and consistency and can't think of the word I'm thinking at the moment, but compliant, but it's like sticking with the plan starts to falter, because we're more likely to be exposed to kids getting sick, work getting crazy, being holidays, and we need to learn to manage can we be smart with our nutrition around those challenges in life that are just gonna happen, because we can't put ourselves in cotton wool forever. We might be able to do that for a really specific point of time. Same thing with tracking. You might be able to do it for a specific strategic period of time, but you're probably not going to be able to do that for life. Or some people might, some people do. Again, it's individual, but we want to be thinking, can I keep doing this in 6, 12, 18, 24, like 30 years down the track? We want to be making changes that affect our whole lifestyle. And that's why we can't just wait for the perfect moment. There is no such thing as a perfect moment. We could start the middle of the day. We can start halfway through the day. We could start on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday, or a Thursday, Friday, whatever day it is. And so, as I said, like the ultimate thing when it comes to achieving our goals is taking action and starting somewhere. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's taking the first step. We don't notice the benefits until we've been taking many, many, many steps. But like we have to take that first step and keep going and keep going and keep going. So after I was thinking about this and sort of formulating this podcast idea in my head yesterday at the beach, I rode on the way back to the office because I probably had an hour gap before my next client. And I went to the gym and I found out what the price was to join the gym. I got a little bit of a tour. And I was told before, someone is like, oh, you can have the option, you can try it for a day or you can join as a membership. I was like, nope, I'm going to go all in. Like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this work. I'm going to make this happen. And I know I will enjoy it. So I'm like, nope, I'm going to commit. I'm going to commit to doing this and I'm going to join. And now I'm joined as a member for the next year. So I'm committing to going at least twice a week, one of them being strengths, one of them being perhaps a flexibility session. And I'm going to keep you all posted on how that goes. And I'll probably do a check-in in 3 months' time, sometime in January, February, to see how I'm progressing, what's changed, what's evolved, if you're interested to sort of follow from that. But yeah, I think that's the key message I wanted to talk about and share today, is that we don't have to wait for the perfect moment to start. We just need to start somewhere and keep going. That's all for today. Like, subscribe, fuel your ride, and I'll see you next time.